With Overwatch coming up right around the corner, I thought this was a good time to really come out there and just lay out my thoughts on the game. Now, I've done a video structured like this before. It was what I love and hate about Black Desert Online, and people really seemed to like that format, where I basically just lay out kind of the pros and the cons, in my eyes, of the game. So let's just move into Overwatch. What I love and hate about the game. We're gonna start off with the positive stuff, the things that I really enjoy, talk about then the negative stuff that I don't enjoy, and then wrap it up with some final thoughts on the game. Now, it's important to note that this game is just about to launch, and although the official live version is not here at the moment, there's been zero indication that the game is changing drastically from the hundreds of hours that I played in the beta. So I think it's safe to say I can give my thoughts on this game at the moment. If things change post-release, I'll let you guys know in a follow-up video. So let's just jump right into it. Starting off with what I love, and I'm so happy that this is actually at the top of my list here with this particular game, because it's what I deem most valuable in any game that I play. And those of you who know me should know by now that that is, how does the game play? How does the game feel? Moment to moment, is it an enjoyable experience? And I can say, hands down, without question, in Overwatch, that answer is yes. And it's surprising in one sense, since this is Blizzard's first shot at an FPS game, but it's also not surprising because it's Blizzard. And not to just be a total fanboy here, but something that I've always said, and I think has always been true about Blizzard, is that they absolutely nail gameplay, polish, and presentation in every single one of their games. You can knock them for design decisions, patch decisions, whatever, but when it comes to playing their games, some of the best in the industry, without question. And even though this is their first time making an FPS, it still rings true. I've been playing a lot of different shooters recently. Most recently, I've been spending a lot of time with Battleborn. And while I love a lot of stuff about Battleborn, I can't say I think the gameplay is as good as it is in Overwatch. All right, let's qualify this. Let's sort of break this down here. Some of the biggest things when it comes to the feel of the gameplay, I've talked about this before. It's the visual presentation and the audio that goes with it. And those two things, between the way a weapon shoots, the sounds that are associated with that, the way that's visually represented on the screen, and then also how your shots and your interactions with the game world interact with your environment, whether you're shooting debris on the ground and it scatters all over the place, or you're shooting an enemy player and they respond in turn to those shots physically, and then also in the audio. Everything about it is fantastic. It's super responsive, it's very smooth, all of the different characters with all their different traits and their characteristics, the small, nimble, quick ones, the big, lumbering, slow ones, the way that camera shakes depending on which hero that you're playing. It's just all amazing. And then again, that moment-to-moment gameplay. When you are in there, playing the game, playing with your friends, and shooting enemies, it is constantly a fun experience. All the stuff that is wrapped around it is, of course, also very important, and that's what we're going to move on to next. But when it comes to the gameplay, congratulations, Blizzard. Once again, you have proven that you understand gameplay, and you understand what makes good gameplay, no matter what genre you happen to be creating. The next thing I want to talk about is the progression system, and this was a fairly recent addition, and it's really neat in that there's a lot to progress in. There are like 90 plus unlocks for some characters. You're looking at progression through different skins, emotes, victory poses, voice lines for the characters you can unlock, sprays, which are decals that you can put in the environment, and even these highlight intros for if you get play of the game, there are various ones that you can unlock. Now, this unlock process comes through just playing the game, getting these loot boxes, and then just getting stuff for those various characters. Having progression systems give people additional motivations, and there's no question about it. That's why a lot of MMORPGs are so successful, because there's that sense of progression of becoming more powerful. Now, while in this game you won't become more powerful, you'll unlock more things that tell the people around you, hey, I really love this game, I've played it a lot, look at all this cool stuff I have, look at this skin that I acquired, look at this voice thing that I have, you know what I mean? Next, we're going to talk about the graphics. Game looks great. It's very, very polished. It's very clear looking. There's a lot of games that I play that I always feel have kind of a muddy look, a not very distinctive look, something that's not very unique, I would say. And you could look at Overwatch and say, well, of course, they're basically just ripping off Pixar. And in some degree, yeah, there is that style, there is that feel to the way that the game looks. But the game world is also very much so its own thing. Between the color palettes, the way the characters look, their silhouettes and everything, the game looks really nice. And then just literal graphical fidelity. We're just talking about the polygons and pixels on the screen. It looks good. It's visually pleasing to the eye. It's not too much, it's not too dull. It's overall just a really nice looking game. And now we're moving on to kind of segueing into the characters, which plays partially into this. As I said, characters have a very unique silhouette. They're all very distinct, and you can visually tell them apart from a far distance. But beyond their silhouette and the way they're graphically presented, which I think I really do like all of them. I think they all look pretty cool. There's also just a lot of story and lore behind them, and a lot of personality. They're all very distinct and unique. And as time goes on and Blizzard reveals more and more of the lores, like we just got the Dragons trailer talking about Hanzo and Genji and their story, you really come to be very attached to these characters. They all have their own motivations, their own personalities, their own history. It really helps kind of engross you in this universe, in the Overwatch world. And the last thing I want to talk about that I love about Overwatch is its simplicity. There's a lot of games that try to throw a lot of different systems and a lot of different things at you. Overwatch is not one of those games. It's about as bare bones basic as you can get. It is 6 vs 6 gameplay in one of 4, which is really 3 game modes. The fourth one is like a combination of 2, and then there's like the new wildcard mode that they're doing. But there's very few game modes. There's a decent variety of maps, which is nice. I do really like that, actually. It's just heroes on heroes. The objectives are very simple. You're basically either capturing a point or you're pushing a payload. There's not much more beyond that. There's not a bunch of crazy things to consider and think about other than maybe health pack respawn timings. It's basically it. It's hero on hero gameplay. It's simple. It's clean. It's easy to understand. And for that reason, it's in this category. However, for the reason of its simplicity, it's also making it into the category of things that I hate, so let's move on to that. I'll explain why. You're capable of both loving and hating things at the same time. Maybe that just makes me crazy. Anyways, moving on to the things that I hate about Overwatch. Number 1, it's simplicity. So yes, I just talked about how that's really cool that they're keeping it basic and it makes it easy to understand and easy to get into. But at the same time, I think it does take away from some depth. Now, I'm not saying there's no depth to Overwatch. There certainly is in team compositions, counter picking, picking for the various maps, knowing map positions and when to push and how to take advantage of situations. There's definitely a lot of depth in the interactions of the characters. But in the mechanics within a match, it is very simple. There's not a lot of depth. There's not a lot to think about. There's not a lot to consider outside of character interactions and map awareness. Like in Battleborn, for example, we got to think about crystal respawn timings, we got to think about pushing the lanes with our creep, when to summon extra minions, and you could just directly say in MOBAs in general, you think about a lot of things, you think about the timing of things, when to grab what, all this stuff. There's a lot of complexity outside of the character interactions. So on one hand, I like the simplicity, but on the other hand, I do think it takes away from some potential depth that the game could have. But this is just the direction that Blizzard has decided to go with this game, and that's okay. Again, it's also a pro, so there you go. Can't hate it that much, apparently. The second thing that I really hate personally about this game is its tremendous team focus. There's no question that this is a team-based game. You have to synergize with your team if you want to be successful. You have to communicate with your team if you want to be successful. And yes, that can be said for any game that has team-on-team gameplay. But in some games, in other games, by yourself you can still do very well and possibly even just win a match with almost zero communication. If you're skilled enough and you know your stuff and you can outplay the enemy, you can just win games. You can't do that in Overwatch. And while that's fine when you're playing with your friends, it makes for a lot of fun and interesting and engaging things, I am also someone who does tend to play games a good portion by myself. It can be frustrating in Overwatch knowing that you really can't carry. Certainly you can play McCree or Pharah or Genji and get a lot of kills and do really well, but if your team's not playing with you, you're not going to win the game. Whereas, for example, in a game like Rainbow Six Siege, my team doesn't need to be playing with me. I can literally just kill all the opposing players, and because there's no respawn, I win the match for our team. So a game like Rainbow Six Siege is a game that I love to play solo because I can carry and do very well and win a match just by myself. But you really can't do that in Overwatch. And that is its base design, and that is fine, and we go into the game understanding that that's the case. But for people who just like to play games solo, and I'm certain there are a few of you out there, it could be a little bit rough in Overwatch because you really are going to rely on communication and ideally playing with people you can know and talk to through voice comms. You can use the in-game voice comms as well, but you never know what you're going to get on the other end. Someone might just be blaring music back in your direction. Who knows? And the last thing that I really don't like is that there's no modding. There's no mod support directly from Blizzard. This game gets many, rightfully so, comparisons to Team Fortress, but a big difference is that Team Fortress modding community is supported and huge, and a big part of the reason that the game has lasted as long as it has, because people can make all these fun and funny and interesting game modes, which is something you're not going to be able to do in Overwatch, or at least not officially supported from Blizzard. I'm sure people are going to finagle around and do some things and add some stuff and maybe, I don't know. It is much better in a game like this, I think personally, to have official mod support built into the game. To say, here you go, make your own levels, make your own interesting game modes. If you make something unique and interesting enough, it might end up officially being in the game. I mean, we've seen Blizzard support their games with mods before. Obviously, StarCraft and Warcraft series are a prime example. And it's clear that that adds value to the game. And I think that this is a game that would have gotten a lot of value from it, at least as of now. Maybe this is something that will change in the future, but right now, there is no official mod support, which is kind of a bummer. So now that we've covered the various things that I love and hate about Overwatch, what are my final thoughts? What are my final impressions? Well, I will say once more that the most important thing in any game for me is the gameplay, and Blizzard nails it. Between that and the graphics, the characters, and the lore, as well as a nice progression system, this is definitely a good game. It's a game that a lot of people are going to enjoy playing and probably spend many, many years with. There's no question about that. And while I'm a little concerned about the simplicity of the game modes, the strong team focus, concerned for those of us who like to play solo, and the fact that there's no official mod support, I don't think that those are enough of a drawback to have me not suggest this game. Just keep those things in mind if those are important things to you, that this might not be the game for you. But I think for many, many people, myself included, this is definitely a game that is worth playing. I am gonna no question play it, and hopefully a lot of my friends play it so that I'll play it for longer, because frankly, I really only enjoy playing it with them. I can't play it solo for too very long without just getting frustrated at the lack of ability to carry. That's a problem for myself though, and isn't gonna necessarily apply to everybody. So if you're asking the question, Force, should I get this game? I'm gonna say unless you're dead set on being able to solo all the time and having a good game with lots of modding, that this is definitely a game that you should check out. And it gets my seal of approval, for whatever that's worth. Alright guys, that is going to do it for me here today. Once again, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Do you like this video? Do you agree with what I talked about? Do you disagree? And how do you feel about Overwatch in general? Hope you all have a fantastic afternoon, and until next time, I'll see you later.